Hello, everybody.
Hello, folks. Hello there, Mr. Costa. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Alrighty then. What are we doing today?
Today we're going to make a dungeon,
Making dungeons.
just a simple 5-room dungeon. Nothing fancy, nothing
Filled
crazy.
with crazy monsters and
Everything's
floor check.
gonna fit on a single page. First, I want to share. We were working on the map last week, and just wanted to update some progress here.
Oh yeah. It's coming along, looking sweet.
Hey, George, how you doing? So yeah, here we go. I'll remove all the blue nonsense. So we got the used to be forest right here.
Zoom in on it. Zoom in on this. It's a beautiful. Look at that Krogland. It's hilarious.
Krogland, which is a crazy amusement park built by Krog, who was in Rickety Stitch Book 2. Got some various abandoned mines. We got Wally's Waffles and Wargs right here. We got Orfong's Dungeon, where Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo used to work.
Subterranean Pits and Layers, LLC.
Got the last tree in the used to be forest.
Sad. Darn those goblins.
We got Troll Town of Dunk.
Cool little mouth of a cave and serpent temple there. Very neat.
Yeah, I got some a new realm we're going to be working on, or a new region. I mean, the coastal region, yet to be named. But here's a little guessing, like a crab rack city.
Crab racks in the land of Eam are like crab people, like giant crab people. Which I've always been a fan of giant crabs, like ever since I ever saw The Mysterious Island, like back in the day. The giant, like, Ray Harryhausen crab. It's awesome.
So yeah, I should. I'm planning on finishing drawing this weekend, and then I'll have to color it. But and then you can see the hexes, and with the colored version, the hexes are going to be like, a little transparent and white.
Hey, Wesley. Yes, this is for the game. It's the Rickety Stitch tabletop RPG. It's called The Land of Eam, and we're going to be releasing the beta of the game very, very soon.
Yeah.
Indeed. I'm loving the Fleabag County area. That's like, you've got your junk town. It's really cool.
And then the river country is a crazy network of rivers. I don't exactly know if this is possible on this scale in the real world, but there is a type of river that kind of looks like this. I forget what it's called.
I'm sure there are many rivers that...
Anastamosing River or something like that.
That's it. You got it. Yeah, river country is really cool too. So what you're looking at, guys, this is the map to the Mucklands, which is the location of the Land of Eam game. It's where Rickety Stitch in the series started out his journey to find out who he was when he was alive, the Skeleton Bard. And this map is associated with a RPG sandbox that we've developed and are developing, I should say. And so all of these different towns and regions and locations, there's 5 different regions. They're not marked, and one new one we're working on. But these regions all have characters like NPCs and quests and towns and factions. And we'll be releasing that shortly after the beta when we release the full game. But it's pretty cool. It's a great resource for GMs to play around in our world.
Yeah. So I guess we should get started on the dungeon. Got this isometric paper here.
Gonna make us a dungeon today. Super fun. And this dungeon's gonna be in the RPG sandbox, the Mucklan's realm. So be able to play it.
So James and I were talking beforehand, and we've kind of decided on doing a Snake Men shrine for this dungeon. And the Snake Men live in the Drippy Downs over here. This is like one of their lairs. This won't be the actual dungeon. This will just be a random shrine somewhere. And so we're just going to do 5 rooms. If you guys have ideas, let us know. Yeah, so I'm gonna draw it at the same time.
While we sort of come up with this guy, you know, it's gonna be classic. So what do you think, Ben? What's the top level? This is a snake person shrine. It's filled with traps and dangers, protecting the wealth.
Snake people.
Snake people. George Higgins says 5 rooms, burgers, and tombs.
Wow,
that's classic.
So yeah, we were talking earlier. We think maybe there should be a magic item at the end of the shrine that they worship, possibly an Eye of Ek, which is something we've created before.
It's actually in Rickety Stitch Book 2. So we got our entrance here.
All right, we've got one room. We've got a first room. Room number 1.
All right, so this is like the foyer, if you will. It's got a front desk and some dessert mints in a bowl.
It probably would if this was an SPL dungeon.
That's true. That's true. SPL is Subterranean Pits and Layers LLC. If you guys don't know, that's the company that Rickety Stitch used to work for with Wazinski and Taskmaster Lloyd Goulihan. So I'm thinking this first room might be filled with maybe some cool Snake Man pictographs depicting their object. George shares that there should be a gong to summon Snake Men.
Snake Men pictographs.
Maybe the room is drippy and wet.
God Ek. Taking over. gong to summon snake men.
There it is.
This will be formatted later. This is just
capture all the notes and we'll polish it, turn it into something beautiful.
all right. I guess you don't want to hit that gong.
No. Angry snake folk are to be avoided, I would say.
Now, I'm going to put 2 ways you can go from the first room.
I was just about to suggest that. Love options right at the beginning.
So what about like a trap?
Yeah. What about a trap down that long hallway? Oh, we could have some cages lining the hallway, like some iron bars or something. And there's beasts on the other end, and step on the wrong floor tile and the cage is open.
Pressure plate. Activated prison cells that release. What would snake men have?
It's a good question. Could leave it up to the GM to come up with the creatures they want inside, but let me take a moment here and open up the Land of Eam creatures document.
Crag lizards.
Love it. Ravenous crag lizards.
Gators.
The Land of Eam RPG has a lot of creatures that we've created in it that exist in the Land of Eam, as well as some familiar fantasy faces that Ben and I particularly love.
All right, so let's go to the next room. Just make this 2.
All right, room. What's in room 2?
How about a snake man?
Snake Man, he's in
Snake
there.
Man.
He's trying to get some food out of a vending machine. No, again, I keep going to subterranean pits and layers.
Joe says
Joe.
captured goblins from the goblin towns.
Great idea. What's going to happen to these goblins? I mean, are they being prepared for a sacrifice? Did they not pay their rent? Well, what is wrong with these guys?
I think sacrifice is probably more in line with snake men.
Snake men temples to Izavek. I think you're right.
But they only want their eyes. They're not going to be killed.
Oh, jeez. I love it.
Joe says in the cages, not the rooms. It's not bad.
Interesting. That is not bad.
Well, that's a good idea. There could be some in the cages, and then in room 2, 2 snake men are dragging along some prisoners.
To put in the cages.
Or maybe they're dragging them away from the cages, and they're bringing them to a sacrifice.
Great idea. For riding a Zeppelin, no ticket, George says. So wonderful Last Crusade, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade reference. A great film, as it were. It is on Netflix right now. Ben and I have been talking about doing a Netflix party where we watch something. We've been mulling around the idea. And we're thinking we're going to, at some point in the near future, host a Netflix party where we watch the 1980s original Ninja Turtles movie. And y'all are invited. More soon.
It was 1990, so...
Whoa! Whoa! The claws come out.
All
George
right.
says Seven Samurai. Yes, that would be awesome.
It's like 4 hours.
Yes.
Is that streaming anywhere?
I don't think Seven Samurai is streaming anywhere. That would be awesome to do a Netflix party for. Ben and I once rented out an entire theater and watched Seven Samurai with our buddy Georgie, actually. And it was really cool. And when I say rented, we did it when we were in college and we said it was for a class, but that's not true. It was actually just a birthday party.
Okay, so here we are. Pressure plate activated prison cells that release ravenous crag lizards. Some cells house prisoners from the town of Dunk. In room 2, 2 snake men are dragging a goblin prisoner from the cages in the hallway. Dragging away. They intend to sacrifice him
To the god of Ek.
to the god
Ek.
of Ek, plucking out his eyes.
It's a rough way to go, you know? Good thing the heroes are here.
Okay. Now, what's over here in this room? To the north.
Good question. Good question. Maybe it is a ritual preparation area of some kind. Like it's filled with snake men goblets.
Maybe that would make sense over here. If
Oh yeah, you're right.
he's being dragged this way.
Like goblets and maybe some potions of various substances to create their ritualistic juice.
Ritualistic juice.
Yeah, it's just like a palette of juice boxes that have varying effects. George Higgins suggests a break room.
I don't know if snakemen take breaks, you know?
Nah, I
They're
don't
just
think they do.
going 24/7.
24/7. They never sleep. They eat huge rats, killer rats.
Ritual preparation chamber
Yeah,
where countless goblets filled with snake juice.
a sunroom to get vitamin D, like a bearded dragon. And when they go to the bathroom, you just fill a tub with lukewarm water.
Okay, so what else is in this? What's the point of this room in terms of when you go into it?
So maybe the prisoners are prepared. They give them concoctions to drink before they pluck out their eyes and bring them to the final chamber where the business takes place. And maybe some of the goblets have different properties. Like maybe there's some filled with poisons and some filled with other potions. So there's some risk reward in there. Maybe there's something helpful, but also something far from helpful.
PCs can try drinking various concoctions. Variable effects. So how about this door is locked?
Mm-hmm.
We got a locked, trapped door right here. Perhaps this leads to the actual shrine.
Now that room on the left is no longer room 3 again and becomes room 4 or something.
Well, I mean, doesn't really matter. Get a good door trap.
How about there's a brass circle lock where somewhere in the dungeon we hide a circular brass key, and if the lock is picked, it can be opened. But if it's not picked, or if it's a failure to pick it, or if you try bashing down the door, it opens up a 15-foot drop right in front of the door. It's filled with slime and mung, so the characters have to find a way out.
Excellent. And the key will be, on the other side of the dungeon.
Yeah.
Over here. All right. the door. Room 5.
It's got a new rice cooker, and apparently it sings when it's done. No idea it was going to do that. Ben, what are your favorite things like in Dungeons, would you say? Like, is there like one kind of challenge that you're super into? Or, a trope that always gets you going?
I like running into random NPCs, so maybe the Goblin Prisoner could be a fun NPC.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. A fun NPC that you can like interact with from here on out if you so choose.
Yeah, like he should have some. He should have some goal of his own that you can help him with.
Yeah. Maybe if we have time at the end of the stream, we can come up with some details on the Goblin Prisoner that are fun. What about some of you guys? Like, what are your favorite dungeon rooms and traps, and what's the cool stuff? I'm a fan of NPCs myself, but I also like Joe says joins as a follower. So this is for the Goblin Prisoner. They could either join you as a follower and or leave you based on the decisions you make in the future, or they could betray you and steal a potion or an item from you, or he can give you a bonus in the dungeon, something like that. So that's not a bad idea. Like maybe the goblin has some knowledge of this place. Maybe this goblin is a dungeoneer who was coming down here to snag treasure for himself and got caught, and could aid you in some way. But obviously, they can't aid you too much because they got caught, so they don't know what's all down there.
Yeah. Well, let's get. I'll read off what we currently have. So the door to room 5 has a magical lock. There's a key to the door in room 4 or somewhere else. We'll figure it out. If you fail to pick the lock or try to bash the door down, a pit trap full of Mung opens up below you.
Cool.
And Mung are the nemesis of gelatinous goos.
They are
They're slime monsters.
Slime goo monsters that compete for resources and supremacy deep in the Underlands, where the gelatinous goos live in their kingdoms. Gelatinous goo kingdoms.
They're basically green evil goos.
Yeah. Without the shopping bag shape.
All right, before we get to the final chamber, let's do this other side.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this 2, okay?
Hey, Jared. How are you doing? Jared says, James the writer was my neighbor.
Like a long time ago?
Yeah. Not too long.
Okay. So let's imagine we're just entering the dungeon again. We turn left.
Turn left. We go into room 2. I'd love if there was maybe this isn't room 2, but this is just an idea I had. What if the on the floor in one of the rooms is covered with like vipers or like singe vipers, and they're all sleeping in those like knots, like those balls of snakes. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's like snakes everywhere, and the only way to cross is to like essentially tiptoe through a room of venomous snakes.
Love it. Love it.
Room 2 should have some snake men statues in it too, like different notable snake men. Like the Hall of Presidents.
Maybe room 3 has a giant Conan snake
Yeah.
who is guarding a treasure hoard.
And in that treasure hoard, maybe on a pedestal, is the key to the temple area. That's how they protect it.
This stuff writes itself. You know what I mean?
Look at it! I ship it, you know?
Make this whole cave like.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to suggest that. Costa. You're in my brain.
Well, looks like we got a 6-room dungeon, guys.
Bonus room. Bonus room.
Had to be done. Should these connect in any way, or should it just be like 2s?
You know, I was about to say, like, what if there was a secret passage between 3 and 6? You know? Every dungeon's got to have a secret door. And if you're like the high snake person, are you going to go all the way around? Or are you going to have your own, like, secret disappear into the wall and find your way to the treasure room?
Or what about 3 and 5? Just so you still have to use the key, you know?
Yeah. Right. That's a good idea.
Maybe it's like hidden behind the dais that's like covered in all the goblets or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe there's a trick goblet that opens it up.
Beautiful. Okay. A giant snake.
It's coiled around the room.
Giant snake is coiled around the room, guarding the key to room 6. There's also a treasure hoard. Okay. So now we just have the last room. Room 6. The shrine. Shrine. Deck shrine. On a pedestal. Is an Eye of Ek.
Maybe the room has some cool component to it where you walk in and there's all these eyes painted all over the walls, and they can see you, and the head snake person can see you when you walk inside.
Well, I definitely think there should be like actual people in there, right?
Yeah, that's true. Head lizard guy should be, or snake guy should be in there.
And probably a few others.
Yeah. Joe's got a lot of great ideas about this goblin. Working with the goblin, he could make dex traps to grab the key. Depending on conversations, he could either run ahead, leaving your group behind, with the snake waking it up, or if you have good charisma checks, goblin could help you. Goblin could help you without fighting the snake, but maybe the trap to make the snake wake up, forcing it to fight. So the goblin guy could do some cool stuff. We could introduce both some benefits and limit and potential pitfalls with the goblin.
All right. The head cultist and 3 other snake men are preparing the ritual and waiting for the goblin prisoner. Has Joe played D&D before? Joe, have you played D&D? Or is this all just like knowledge that you've gained?
Gamer knowledge. Just general gamer knowledge. You know, one thing I really like about dungeons is roving monsters that are not in the same place all the time.
Like a patrol.
Yeah. Like snake men guard patrols could be cool. Oh, interesting. So if you somehow fail with the goblin, like when the opportunity knocks to create a relationship with the NPC, he could run deeper in, and if you wanted to, you could create a hard mode for the dungeon where it just continues to grow into a bigger labyrinth that the characters didn't know was there before. That's a cool idea. Choices that the characters make leading to the dungeon expanding is interesting. I don't think we'll do that today, but will. That's not a bad idea. Reminds me of Mega Dungeons, Ben. Mega Dungeons with like hundreds and hundreds of rooms in them.
Yeah,
Like for the serious dungeon crawler.
we're definitely going to make a mega
Yeah.
dungeon at some point.
I want not a world. There's no world where we do not make some enormous mega dungeon.
So I guess I'll start inking this.
Yeah. Are you going to put any flair on it? Like stylize it? I mean, not today,
I don't know.
but like in the future.
I don't know. I've never really like made a lot of dungeons before, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you mean, like draw a snake in room 3 or something?
Like a giant snake or like the Eye of Ek shrine. Things like that. So satisfying to watch, Ben.
Three other people agree with you.
Oh, classic.
So what else can we talk about here, huh?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
What is this going to be called?
The temple.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Make it classic, like Temple of Ek.
But it's only one of many, you know.
Right. Gosh. When we were in middle school, I used to have just like notebook after notebook of dungeons that I would draw for fun. There's something really cool about dungeons. It's really satisfying.
Wow, George. Those are painful. Ek versus Sever.
Ek versus Sever really got me.
Ek's gonna give it to you.
Labyrinths are pretty fun too, but they're like super stressful to keep track of. We really didn't do too many labyrinths when we would play D&D, like back in the day.
No. I'm interested in developing rules to abstract stuff like that. So
yeah, right.
So you can just like, instead of having to have this massive labyrinth, you can use tables and
Yeah. George says he's done a handful and rarely completed them. What was it like, George? Like, what did you love about it? What did you hate about it? Labyrinths, mazes. I mean, I think visually they're beautiful to look at. It's like cool to see the full art of a maze. But when it comes to the gameplay, I've always like found it. It's I struggle. I struggle to figure out how to play it effectively and reveal it effectively.
I think that's now easier online. What you can do,
Right.
go to Roll20 and have the
That's true.
fog of war.
That's true.
But when we were kids,
It's like, what do? You just take like a piece of paper and
yeah, we used
cover
to have
most
a
of it and
piece
just
of
like,
paper.
yeah. Yeah, George says it was tedious at times. The Temple of Elemental Evil was so brutal and punishing.
I still kind of want to do like classic dungeons like that, like the Tomb of Horrors,
Yeah, right.
where like that your character is probably going to die, so you have a bunch of backups
Yeah.
just to get in touch with that old school
Yeah.
deadliness.
The lethality of old school D&D dungeons. Yeah, George says it becomes unfun when you didn't have areas of respite or non-combat rooms. You need to have the right DM to balance it. Yeah, it's tough. I think that's what attracts me to making a big maze, because like I think of Labyrinth and like all the cool, fun, wacky stuff, but there was also rest. Like you could use the labyrinth to your advantage because other things couldn't find you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you could kind of design that stuff in so you could take advantage of, the fact that you are in some lost garden and have a minute to breathe.
That can also be frustrating for a DM, though, depending on how you're playing. If the group just always wants to rest, like gain
Right.
back hit points and like whatever,
Right.
can become tedious.
It'd be cool to, like you said, to figure out a way to randomize the events in it, but still have, because it's its own ecosystem, like treat it a little bit like traveling on the hex board,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can um, actively rest, but there's like a risk of something or bumping into things. So it takes away the we live here now mentality. But maybe that's the way to do it. Just make it like traveling on a hex board, except for it's a isolated ecosystem with its own things going on. An enormous amount of dead ends. Hey George, have you ever done a solo RPG? Have you ever seen those where they have the tables of you roll and this is what you encounter and this is essentially how you advance like a pretty they're usually pretty narrative structured, but I've been looking into those lately because I think it'd be fun to create a solo adventure for Land of Eam. And I'm just curious as if there's like good stuff out there. I see stuff all the time that, but nothing has really like spoken to me in terms of like solo play.
I've heard stuff about something called Iron Sworn. I
Iron Sworn. Yeah, I think I've seen them.
haven't
Iron
looked into
Sworn.
it.
Yeah, they're very. The ones that I have seen are all very campaigny, which I totally believe. Yeah, right. George says Gloomhaven is based around the idea that the game DMs you and you advance things by drawing cards, etc. Yeah, I'd read about that. It's a very cool concept. It's got kind of a board game vibe. Um,
Yeah.
like my brother and I, we last year we got into Games Workshop's Blackstone Fortress, which is very combat-y type of RPG, but it's essentially the game DMs it. It says what's in the room and what creatures you have to face or challenges or whatever. And we really liked that because it was super tight and the mechanics were good and the obviously the universe is rich and interesting and there's a level of randomness to the generation of the dungeon itself, which was cool. Um, it's a cool concept. I like the idea, and the fact that when you pull a card or something happens, it changes it permanently is also really cool because then you can, over the course of several sessions, run through the dungeon yourself or have people take over characters. And with the more board game ones, they generate the characters and abilities and stuff pretty rigidly so that it's a little easier to just pick up and go. But that'd be cool. It'd be cool to do something in the Land of Eam that was like a solo campaign that you could run yourself, but you could scale it up. And it's kind of an isolated thing. Look at that IAC over there, you know what I mean? Are you muted, Ben?
Oops.
See your lips moving, but don't know what you're saying. Oh boy, we got a serpent over here. Love it. This really scratches my Conan itch.
Conan.
I think we made the merchant angry.
Is Conan the Barbarian streaming anywhere currently?
I don't know, but that's a good question. For those of you that don't know, Conan the Barbarian is essentially Ben and I's favorite movie. The original Conan.
Not Conan the Destroyer, which we were just quoting.
Right. Conan the Destroyer pales in comparison. Looks like it's streaming on Hulu. Oh, wait. Only if you have Stars. which I do not. Streaming on Amazon Prime, but I might. Oh wait, no, I own it on Amazon Prime. That's why it says I could watch it. I already own it. I own 2 copies of Conan the Barbarian. I own the Blu-ray and I own the Amazon Prime. George says, need a Dangle, Serpentor, or a Nemesis Enforcer. That's a reference to the 1980s G.I. Joe movie with all the snake people. Are you muted again, Ben?
No,
Yeah, you are.
I am. I shouldn't be.
Classic 80s G.I. Joe Serpentor. This I command.
Can you not hear me? Can you guys hear me?
You're still muted, Ben.
It's weird.
Am I muted also? Can you guys hear me? Is it just for me that Ben is muted? Weird.
Well, maybe this is a good time to end the stream.
Now I can hear. Now I can hear Ben. Right when he threatens to end the stream. Yeah, it's that time. Thanks, guys, for joining us. This was super fun. We'll be back next week at 11 a.m. to pal around and do more stuff in the Land of Eam RPG. It's a labor of love for Ben and I. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week maybe you can make some magic items or something like that.
Yeah.
So cool. Thanks everyone for coming.
Yep.
Thank you, George.
Thanks everybody.
Chatting.
And if you haven't checked it out yet, totally go to ricketystitch.com and read the books. You'll get a good idea what this world's really like. All right. Happy weekend. Fare thee well, peeps.